All right. So welcome to our Teaching for Success Inclusive Series podcast. Today, as promised, we have our multi-language learner coach, Elizabeth B., and she'll be joining us to answer questions about inclusion and language. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
All right. So our first question to you is, how can teachers in a multilingual Ugandan classroom use a student's mother tongue as a bridge to learning rather than treating it as a hurdle to English proficiency? And I know that you do work here in Canada, but we can still glean from the strategies that you use with students here, because you deal with students from different countries who speak different languages, and who sometimes we get parents thinking that it's not a good idea for students to speak their mother tongue at home. So what are your thoughts?
Absolutely, thank you. Thanks for having me today. Well, and you bring up a very common theme that I deal with in my day-to-day, in my week-to-week, month-to-month. I've been in this role for almost 5 years.
Okay.
And a very common conversation that I have with family members with regards to the home language and the school language is that parents feel very guilty to not have English in the home. And, with my phone calls, I feel like, or my, face-to-face conversations, I actually find that parents are surprised when I say, oh no, please do continue using the primary language at home.
Yeah.
And if we go even further back to, my experience in teaching with early years,
Yes.
and teaching at the kindergarten level, I've always learned, even through studies, through hands-on experience, through working with children for decades,
Yes.
that foundations in oral language and any language are very crucial to the learning environment in any subject area. So we can't really isolate language
Yes.
and say that, if my child is exposed to English, they're going to do well in school. That's
Yeah.
not necessarily the case. I've worked with many multilingual students that come in as newcomers with many languages, and they shine and outperform students that have grown up in the country, that have grown up in Canada, have been in the school system. And we have actually research studies that show multilingual language learners are after high school they are successful, and they outperform actually the mainstream students.
The ones who are only speaking one language.
That's
Yeah.
right. There's more and more research coming out with regards to this. But just on a personal note,
Yeah.
how wonderful is it to say that there's more than one way to process something, more
Yes.
than one way to process a word.
Mhm.
How cool is it when you hear that someone has another language?
Yeah.
This was something even from a young age that I had a passion for. When I was growing up in the school system here,
Yeah.
I had friends that from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and
Yeah.
with different languages at home. And I was always very curious and saying, oh, how do you say this in your language? And I made it a point to say, how are you? In my goal was to say in 10 different languages. And I just still remember this, and I think it's very special. I encourage families to hold on to their home language.
Yes.
So my story, I had the opposite. So my parents, they appreciated that the school system had English as the primary language, but in our home, they didn't see it as the dominant language. In my home,
when they see you, explain to the viewers a little bit more about that, because when a lot of people see you, they assume
Right.
that Caucasian, you must be an English speaker, right? And that was
yeah.
your background from childhood. So can you just highlight that?
I think it's very important, and I always love sharing my story. I share my story with newcomer families, and it's that way to make connections as well. So, you know, I'm the first generation of Canadian born in my family.
Yes.
So my parents immigrated here. But after my birth, I spoke one language at home, and that's the Macedonian language. I didn't learn English properly until I, you know, was in school for year after year after year. Not right away, it happens quickly. But in kindergarten, I came home one day and I still remember exactly where I was standing, and I still remember my heart beating and feeling nervous that like I thought I was in trouble when my mom approached me and she said, I notice that when you come home, you're not speaking our language as much as you used to. You're starting to lose our home language.
Yes.
So from now on, I would like you to come home and try harder to speak the home language. But when you go to school, it's okay. With your friends, with your teachers, with your learning environment, use English. But when you come home, I'm worried you're going to lose the Macedonian language. And I am very grateful for my mom doing this and encouraging me. I suppose when I was young, I didn't really differentiate languages too much. I just used whatever I was comfortable with. But my mom is the person that really encouraged, as my parent, and encouraging me to stick with the mother tongue. Like I still communicate with family members overseas.
So were you ever in a situation like me? I spoke to my mother, I responded to her in English, and she always spoke her mother tongue to me. Did you ever get into that situation?
Very much. This is very common. Even today when I meet students from around the school, and just recently actually a student in grade 5 said, Miss, you know, I came to Canada when I was 4 and I lost my English in 1 year. I had to learn my home language all over again. But again, I really would like to stress the importance of having foundations in oral language, no matter the language. It's very important for parents to speak and model language to their children at home, whether it's English or not. Because the sophisticated language, as it's developing, it will transfer over into another language anyways. And it happens quite naturally, and it happens with time, and you know, having the exposure in schools, of course, or in, you know, outdoors, in the community, and being involved. So, but one thing I also wanted to, in regards to your question about using the home language as a bridge to learning English, again, you know, sometimes you really have to plan ahead as an educator and find those connections. But it's a really beautiful thing when the first language and English can be learned side by side, whether it's through translation tools, whether it's through writing next to the English word, maybe writing the word that you're familiar with in your home language. And there's a term for the viewers if they like to, you know, look it up. Just Google it. It's called cognates. Cognates.
Okay.
And so these, like, what are they? They're words from different languages that really just sound similar. They have a similar pronunciation and they have a similar meaning. So, you know, the word, how do you say balloon in the Ugandan language? Is it balloony?
I think we would actually just say balloon, because there's some words of things or objects that were never there, that were introduced to our culture. So we just stick to the original name. We don't really have a name for it. Like we have a name for a ball or something like that. But balloon would be, they would probably actually say balloony. Some languages put a vowel at the end.
So when I translated it last night, this is what I looked at, and you know, like in Macedonian, it's ballon. In French, it's
I don't
Ballon,
speak French.
I believe.
Yeah.
And so, but the other one actually that might even have more of this overlap with other languages, for example, chai
Yes.
is tea.
And is chai tea in Macedonia?
It is.
Wow. Chai, we call it tea chai as well
So
in
isn't
many
this
Ugandan
exciting?
languages. Yeah, we
Yes.
say chai in Swahili, tea is chai. Yeah,
It's
that's amazing.
It's exciting when this
Yeah.
happens.
Even in Arabic, it's
Yes,
chai.
many.
Yeah.
In Turkish, Russian, Urdu, Portuguese, Hindi,
Mhm.
Farsi, there
That's
are
interesting.
so many languages, and the kids who hear their home language in different scenarios get so excited.
Yeah.
And so I encourage educators to really bring in all the languages of the classroom and celebrate them and really make those connections and find out, and then use it as like a word study.
Yeah.
And for example, when I was learning how to say how are you in multiple languages, from my friends when I was in high school, what did I do? I used the English alphabet to write down the pronunciation of the word in the other language. Yeah. And so
like
I was
phonetically.
Phonetically.
Right? Yeah.
And this is great practice for students learning English.
Yes.
And let's take a word that we already know in one language and apply the spelling. Yeah. And then you can compare spelling rules and spelling patterns. Yeah. What happens when you change ballon to balloon or balloony? Yeah. Look at the two O's, look at the U, and compare the English alphabet sounds to what you hear in your home language, and the learning continues.
That's very interesting. Well, our next question, we have 3 more questions. What are simple daily practices? I think you've touched on some of these daily practices that make multilingual learners and their families feel genuinely welcomed and valued in the school community. So what can we do as schools to make them feel welcome?
Yes, so it depends on a school level. When you have a new family arriving from outside of the country or outside of the language of the school system, just be prepared. Try not to make assumptions on the family's needs right away. We don't know, we're just getting to know them. We don't want to make anyone feel like that they're missing a skill set or something. Families come in with all sorts of different journeys and experiences, and the first thing to do to be supportive is just really listen, make a connection, hear the stories, get to know your learners. On a school level, I always like to start with, have my translation resources ready to go, like maybe have somebody else that speaks the same language with you. We have, teachers. I recently had a family with Arabic, and we have 2 teachers in the school with the same language. So we had them ready to meet with the family with us in the office. When we provided a tour in the school, we had students who speak the same language as the family. So it was just a very warm, welcoming feeling to know that there are other people in the building with similar language experiences or maybe even journeys.
This would be important in international schools in Uganda, where they get students from different parts of the world who might speak different languages. But when it comes to a lot of the local schools, all schools teach in English. The ones in the rural schools might teach more in their local language, and then as the grades go up, then they teach more and more English because they use the local language to translate.
Right.
But then they still have kids from especially high schools who come from different parts of the country speaking different languages, although they still learned in English, but they are still the odd few students who would come maybe not that skilled in the English language. Maybe they've mostly been taught in their local language and they have to adjust in listening to English full time. That's
really just slow things down when you can. Use visuals as much as possible. Students, no matter what age, they learn from their environment and from watching what others are doing. And this is a great chance to create those leadership opportunities for other students in the room or in the learning space, because, giving that sense of responsibility to the students who've already been longer in the environment, it just allows them to feel like, if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm following instructions, if I'm working hard, if I'm a dedicated learner, this will be like a role model for the student coming to that new environment.
That's an excellent example. When I was about 10, 11 years old, I went to school in Zambia, which is in the more southern parts of Africa. They spoke a totally different language. In the school, they taught in English, but they had, just like we have the grade 4s and up having French as a subject in most of our schools here, they also had their local language as a subject.
Yes.
So as a new student, I walked into the school and this teacher was teaching, it was called the Bemba was the language they were speaking in. And he thought I was Zambian. He didn't realize I was a new student from out of the country.
Right.
So he started speaking Bemba and he looked at me and he spoke, whoa.
Yes.
And I just looked at him and he went on, and then all the kids started laughing in the classroom. Then eventually he's like, do you speak Bemba? He said it in English. I said, no. I said, I don't. I said, I'm from Uganda. And then he's like, oh, I'm really, really sorry. I mean, he could have been saying, are you deaf? What's wrong with you? And all the kids were laughing.
Yes.
But I like what you said about visuals.
Yeah.
And not making assumptions, especially of our new students coming in. And I think visuals are really something that are important. Even in our everyday life, we need visuals to be able to figure our way around. If you are traveling, say, to a different country, if there were no signs, I mean languages, when I traveled to Quebec City, everything is in French, right? But if there were no signs, no pictures, I would be totally lost. So visuals are really good. Yeah.
Oh, yes, and your point to the assumptions piece, and even if we see on paper what the language is, we don't know about the dialect.
Yes.
And
true.
so again, we have to really listen to the family members. We have to take the time to make accommodations and considerations where they work best. And like I mentioned about seating arrangements, maybe with somebody
who speaks the same language
or similar
language.
Or has a similar experience. They can really just provide that like comfort. It's a very scary time. My advice too is, the academic piece will come. What I've seen, the journeys of newcomers learning in a new school system, or even for the first time in school, the first little while, it's adjusting to change, it's finding your place, learning about what's going on, let alone the language, finding out about the routines and the expectations. And then, the social, and then really the academic, and that could take a couple of years. So it's really just being patient and not putting too much pressure right away, because they already feel pressured. Like they already feel like, I don't know enough English, I need to learn more.
And planning, a school having those structures in place in anticipation for new students coming in. And not just going with the flow and, just winging it just to get through the day, but having structures in place in case they have students who need these supports. So I think you've answered most of my next question. So in our last question, how does inclusive practice for multilingual learners directly benefit, say, Ugandan-born students who are fluent in English or the dominant language? So how is the practice good for just regular people? They speak English, but they also speak their own language. How is it important for us to practice inclusivity?
I'm going to go in a different direction with this. I'd like to bring up the universal design for learning. Again, something else the viewers can look up and Google. This is a type of learning design for all people, children and adults. And I'm a believer that if educators are in the role of facilitators of learning, rather than placing themselves like as authority figures and standing in front of everyone and giving that message
on the stage.
Yes, you know what? I was waiting for that. I suppose the traditional approach in teaching, I don't know how far back in time we need to go, but I suppose, and everyone has their own style, but if you find yourself as an educator doing most of the talking and doing most of the planning and doing most of the teaching at the students, what's missing in this? It's the student's voice, it's the student's interests. You can set your agreed upon rules in the classroom, agreed upon whatever it is that you would like to have in place for the school year. You have a curriculum to follow, but you also have the interests of the students to combine with your curriculum. And if you adopt sort of this framework of, bring in as much as you can of the students in the space, and I know this is a very broad thing to say, but the more you ask questions and you learn about the learners in this space, the easier actually the planning will come. Because when you're planning something like data management for math, for example, and then you hear that students like to play video games, well, you can look at data on video games. And actually, I'm noticing that children these days are very well versed in their oral articulation and not doing as much in terms of the writing, but it depends what you're looking for. There's a place in your learning, in your day, where students will create a product on paper. Maybe it's going to be a written piece, maybe it'll be a drawing, but just take the time to consider what it is that will excite all learners, and everyone will feel included, no matter their levels in English language proficiency. If there's a time where you can have more conversation, think about how inclusive that is for the English language learner. That perhaps, through translation, perhaps, demonstrating learning involves a picture, a drawing, or a combination of many things. So really my advice is to just mix it up, make it fun, move around. Sitting in a chair all day and writing on paper all day is going to get boring. It's not helping. It loses its meaning. And then behavior issues tend to escalate.
And knowing their interests, I think, is very important. I think that's something that is lacking in a lot of schools in Uganda, is teachers not making sure that they know what the interests of the students are, they know what their strengths are, they know what their needs are, and they use that with the assessments to drive the instruction, instead of, I like what you said, we want to avoid just teaching at the students. We want to be more facilitators of learning in the classroom, not just talk.
Oh yes. If you can go outside to learn about something, why have a piece of paper in front of you on the table all day? Or even lessons on the screen, for example. If your lessons look the same every day, they may not be very effective. And yes, maybe students can memorize some of the information, but what's more important is to have meaning from that information, from the skills that are being developed, so that people can grow up to apply this in their everyday lives and to understand about the world and become problem solvers and contributing citizens. Right. Exactly. So it's not just that they have to be in school and being taught at, right? It's that idea that we are living our lives every day, and how can we bring joy and meaning into the things that we have to learn.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm Rosa Kemerembe, founder and facilitator at Teaching for Success, and this was Elizabeth B. joining us today and giving us great insights in multi-language learning strategies. And just stay tuned. We'll have more speakers, more people we're going to interview, and we're going to continue our series with inclusivity. Join us next weekend for our next engaging podcast. Thank you.